stream is live. Making sure it's switching over. There we go. And there we go. All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Talking About Survivor. I am Christiana Ellis.
I'm Mike Mateen.
And we are watching tonight, or talking tonight, about Survivor Winners at War, episode 9. I got a little distracted there for a second because I was looking at the Twitch stream feed as opposed to my broadcasting software. So it looked like we were out of sync for a second when it was actually just the normal broadcast delay.
Got it.
So we're changing it up this episode. We decided last week to resequence some of our segments that we had been doing this season because it didn't make sense to talk about highlights and end up having to just undermine and repeat ourselves for favorite moment and biggest surprise. So we're going to start right there. Favorite moment.
Of course, this week has to be the one where my favorite moment and the biggest surprise are the same thing.
Oh, yeah?
I mean, it's got to be Adam trying to go and get the idol off of the podium.
It's pretty good.
That's such a good moment, and it is such a big surprise because they did such a good job of allowing us to believe that was possible for so long. It was like this going to turn out. You know, we just didn't know. Like, it seemed ridiculous, but he made a good case for it, and they allowed us to, like, believe it. You know?
Well, like, honestly, I'm right there with you in terms of favorite moment, because that's hard to beat. But on the biggest surprise thing, I felt like as soon as he mentioned it, I was sure he was going to go for it. So I was delighted to see it actually happen, but I didn't actually feel surprised when he really went up there to do it, just because I felt like...
Oh, I'm not surprised that he went up there to do it. I'm just surprised at, like, it. I'm surprised that they did such a good job of allowing us to believe it was possible, that he truly believed it, that he was going to do it, and then it didn't work. Like, that was what kind of was. It was a nice surprise, yeah.
It was certainly troll-like for Probst to let him go sit down and say, "You're convinced it's not?" And then it's like, well, wait a minute. Now I'm not.
Yeah, Probst did a great job.
Yeah. Although, at the same time, like, he, it's just like, okay, are you done playing with my podium? I mean, that was pretty exciting. I mean, it is such a perfect capper for sort of that last act of Adam's game, which was to say he's playing perhaps a little too hard.
Yes. So, I mean, I think I believe it was one of the things that was our pieces of advice from last time was like, we said it did work for him, the paranoia last time, but the paranoia and the way that he was playing this time and allowing him to think he had this weird safety net just made him do even more that was just too much,
I think my favorite moment is actually gonna not be that moment was pretty great, but it feels to me a little bit all of a piece with that whole tribal council where, first of all, we get the ridiculous amount of whispering, which I feel like was more comically edited even than times when this has happened before, because there's certainly now been lots of tribal councils where this sort of thing happened. But I felt like there was a lot more stuff where you had 2 or 3 people actually trying to carry on a normal conversation with Jeff while all the whispering was happening behind them. That was pretty funny. And then, of course, that whole thing where everyone's paranoid, suspicious, lots of whispering going on, and then finishing up and Adam kind of saying, and maybe I feel a little better, and so, people are sharing intel now, right?
Yep.
Right? And then nobody will even look at him, and it's like, oh, well, okay then. I mean, It was not the biggest surprise that he ended up being the one voted out.
No. So, but it was funny too because speaking of good moments and big surprises, like there was so much. I mean, that was so big, but like
Hmm.
there was so much like leading up to it, especially at the beginning, like the riddle that Parvati had, and it was like, which it led to like a minor surprise for me that I didn't realize it's the same edge of extinction.
Hmm. Yeah, the
So
same like actual location.
actual location. So I mean, it's again, that's not a huge thing one way or the other. It was just something that was surprising, and then her figuring it out, and then deciding to share it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yep, and then came up with a real. I mean, and again, so I was like, this whole thing of how that the fact that it was like this 50-50 coin flip thing, like that was a surprise. Like we've never
Hmm.
seen that before. Um,
I
again, Parvati going from I'm going to sell this and get tokens to I'm actually going to share it with everybody and figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
so
yeah, it's interesting. It was yeah, I want to talk more about that in a moment, but
okay.
I think my what I had as my biggest surprise was actually Sarah deciding to give up her position on the reward to Nick for his birthday.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, on the one hand, like I believe her mostly when she says that it was not a game move, and the reason I believe her is because it's not a good game move.
Right.
As we saw what exactly what happened, right? Like the only reason to
Exactly.
do it would be because it's out of the goodness of your heart, and that has to be despite it it not being a good game move, which makes it ironic because the whole reason it's not a good game move is because people will suspect it's a game move.
Right, and that's what. No, I totally agree with you there. That it it was funny that they were like so against her on that. Like she was gaming to like try to win favor or something. Like because these players, these are all people who have won. Like they're not going to
Mm-hmm.
make silly calculations like that. Where like I mean, she's smarter than that. Basically,
See,
she
yeah. I mean, here's the thing though, is that that there are so many times on this show where we have to kind of say they're coming on a little strong with their criticism there or whatever because the point is like, oh, this is a game move, therefore that's due criticism, and oh yeah, she's just totally doing it for gameplay reasons. It's like, well, okay, but do you really think that's a problem, or are you just looking for a reason, any reason to target someone other than yourself? Of course it's the latter, right? It's not that like anyone actually thinks, oh my gosh, I can't believe that she would try to manipulate us like that. I mean, nobody's really thinking that.
no, they're still unfortunately they're still trying to come up with the easy vote
Hmm.
that isn't them, but they have to be more clever about it because they're all more clever.
Yeah. Now, what I
So
really did like about that, though, was Tony coming up to her afterwards and going, "What did you do? Why would you do that?
well,
You
I
realize
thought
what
it'd be
everyone's
funny.
going to say now."
And I thought it was well, and this was funny. I had this in my notes too. This was I thought was so in character for Tony. Is he didn't just say what did you do? He said what did you do, man?
Yeah.
Like it's just so in character, like to just not. I mean, just to be like so bro with her that like he doesn't even realize that like he can just call her man and it's like
Yeah.
not a thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So on the one hand, I like this sort of thing in the game because first of all, it's a reminder in a fun way that these players are human beings, right? And it's nice to see that peek through, even as we are also excited by everyone kind of setting aside normal behavior for this particular type of competition, right? Just like we don't judge someone harshly because they're lying to someone about what the strategic vote's going to be because it's a game, right? But on the other hand, sometimes you can say, you know what? I felt bad about what happened with Nick the last time, and it was his birthday, and here I could do something nice for him. And sure, there's all sorts of gameplay implications that play into that, and Sarah cannot have been unaware that that was an issue. But I think what she really just maybe kind of felt about it is that the chaos theory of what long-term effect will it have on the strategic gameplay is up in the air enough that she just decided to do what she wanted to do, which was give it to him. It's the same way that we talk about sometimes how people justify or rationalize that however they just feel like playing is actually their strategy.
Right.
In this case, I don't think it's quite that. It's more a matter of, well, okay, so it could be seen as a gameplay in the sense that like she's trying to get close to Nick, but it could be seen as bad as because she's trying to get close to Nick. And you know, like you could see like the ripples of that kind of going either way in theory, right? But in some ways, like the people acting like it was a big deal and somehow like she's due criticism and should be targeted as a result. I think that's the stupid argument, frankly, because it's like, well, then again, I take it back because I was just going to say it's like cozying up to Nick. What does that actually get her? Because Nick is probably going to go out, and then of course I realized, oh yeah, he's going to go out, so he'll be on the jury.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why. But you know, it is what it is. So it wouldn't be what either of us, I think, would call favorite moment or biggest surprise. But let's talk about those music with lyrics in the in this episode. Now,
Yeah. The biggest surprise is that not only are they sticking to it, they're doubling down. Like
yeah.
there is more of it now.
Well, I had a little bit of an epiphany about it, I think, which is that I think I may have an idea what some of the underlying motivation is there. Because what I realized is it's actually not the first time that there has been music with lyrics. It's just the first time there's been music with lyrics in English, right? Because a lot of the music over the years has had sort of like tribal chanting sorts of vocalizations, just never in English in a way that kind of drew its attention, right?
It's true. I think there might have been like a standard theme that actually was a tribal chant that they would play, and they may still use.
Well, they don't play the full opening credits very often anymore.
No, and I think I remember. I think this used to play. It used to be what did launch the challenge. I think that was always the same few bars of music with you're right, a little bit of chant.
Right. So there has been some of that in the past, and I wonder if there was some consideration given to the idea of like, is that appropriative? It kind of is. I mean, maybe it's not a big problem, issue, but it's something that's maybe worth thinking about a little bit, given that it's rare that the show actually incorporates real elements of Fijian culture or anything like that, right? So it's a question of like, okay, what is the rationale for using it? And so maybe they felt like they wanted to start maybe easing off of that a little bit. And by, having it in English instead of, I don't know, maybe that was something of what was going on. But the fact of it, though, is certainly for us, it's super distracting to suddenly notice the English dialogue, especially when it's as on the nose as the whole Winners at War song towards the end. I mean, it's one thing where it's kind of like, what was it? Get ready for the thunder or whatever it was. But then the later one, and it's like, it's the winners at war. And it just feel like, it felt like in cheesy movies where they finally say the movie title,
Right.
So yeah, it's silly and weird, and I do not care for it. If they feel if I'm right that part of what's going on there is they want to move away from the chanting, that's fine. How about we go to just instrumental instead?
Right.
Yeah. Because I didn't mind like the style of the music, although that was a little different too. But the lyrics are very distracting.
Yes.
So let's see what else. Other highlights that. Oh well, we have plenty of stuff from Adam, like the whole Ben and Adam confrontation, where Adam absolutely was making trouble for Ben, and Ben probably not wisely just goes and just straight up confronts him about it, and Adam has to do this whole like facial journey of like, oh no, oh no, he realizes it, I'm caught, this is bad, better think of something. No, no, who told you that? I don't know, I didn't say anything like that, no. And and then Ben's just like, really? Okay, well, fine, whatever, I'm walking away then. Why are you walking away? I have to explain to you what my whole story for why I didn't do what you just said that I did. And then Adam talks to the confessional, is like, I can't believe he would just be so condescending asking me that. And I'm like, Adam, I mean, maybe we could say it's not really good for Ben's game to be confrontational about that sort of thing, but you did do what he accused you of doing, and then you lied to his face about it, and that's why he walked away. So, you know, getting uptight about his condescending tone is a little. I mean, I like Adam. I enjoyed watching Adam in all of this, but yeah, that was definitely a moment of he got totally busted and then really sort of flailed around a little bit trying to save himself.
Yep.
Um,
Like, and then, like, he had the safety net, so he got even weirder.
well,
Like, he
yeah,
knew it wasn't the right thing, but like once he got that deep, yeah. So
yeah. I mean, that's what he said, and so I mean, I guess I believe it that he sort of felt like he had that in his back pocket, but I don't know. um, any other highlights?
I like the immunity challenge. I mean, that one's always kind of fun.
Mm-hmm.
And the final battle between what was it, Ben and Kim.
Mm-hmm.
They were
Mm-hmm.
the last two, I think, and like this, the tension that comes with that, and the fun of watching people fall in the water.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, it
Jeremy
was cool.
made some really good noises as he was, would start to lean over and have to recover and stuff like that. Um, yeah, it's a fun to watch challenge, for sure. Shoot, what was it? Oh, never mind. I was trying to remember this other point that I wanted to make, but then I realized that wires were crossing in my head between something I said about last week's episode and the movie we're going to talk about after this podcast. So, never mind. Um, I think my last one is just poor Nick in the sense of like he's not in much better shape, even though he survived this one, because he was certainly still everybody's backup vote, right, in case of
Right.
some sort of an idle play. And then we even see the votes counting up, and he sees the two for him, and he's like, "It's me, I know it." And it's just like, "Oh, Nick, yeah. Well, I mean, you got another 3 days. We'll see if you can do anything."
You know,
Yeah. But yeah, so who's your MVP for this week?
so this week I was going to go with Kim,
Hmm.
and part of why is I think, and actually Dalton Ross touched on this in his recap, so I don't want to. I didn't lift it from him, but it definitely reinforced because it reminded me that she is a really, really good player, and she didn't dominate the challenge. Obviously, like she competed with Ben for it, but she's winning the immunity. She's getting the move she wants. Like she's in the right. She's always in the pole position right now. Like it's similar to why I gave it to Sophie last week. I think the
Hmm.
two of them have really lined themselves up right now. If they can keep that up, like they're both doing really well. It's going to be interesting to see kind of how that all shakes out.
Hmm.
And when one of them actually gets targeted for something, because right now there's so much noise on the periphery, and they're playing really good games. They're controlling what they want. Kim's winning these challenges again, showing her physicality, but like they're never really brought up that much.
I think for the same reason, the name that came to mind for me is actually Tyson, on the basis that you'd think he would be a big target. He was voted out the first time for being a big target, and now he's come back from Edge of Extinction, and now somehow he has managed to turn Jeremy's shield strategy like on its head, because maybe Jeremy thinks he's using Tyson as a shield, but to me sitting here on my couch, it sure looks like Tyson is using Jeremy as a shield.
Oh, absolutely. I totally agree with you. That's a great one also because and even just think about the fact that he was a big threat.
Mm-hmm.
And part of the reason he was a big threat was his relationships with all these people who are now confirmed to all be on the jury.
Mm-hmm.
And he has relationships outside the game with the jury members. Like, you would think the combination of that would make that a more easy vote than Sarah for giving up her thing. You're right. Yeah.
Well, and it was also Tyson that steered the conversation back to Adam from Sarah, because there was originally talk about Nick, Adam, and Michelle, but then Nick is doing what he can to get more names out there, and good for him. But people start to talk about Sarah like we're actually changing the plan, and then all of a sudden we have Tyson saying, well, wait a minute, isn't it actually Adam kind of trying to drive some of that, and kind of gradually nudging everyone back over to Adam, who is obviously a much better target for everyone else. I mean, I like Sarah, but I think that Adam was a bigger target than Sarah.
Right, and to your point, like Tyson is using Jeremy's shield strategy articulating without articulating it. Yeah. He's using the shield strategy because he wants to keep Sarah around, because Sarah is a good other vote if he ever starts getting brought up.
Yeah, I mean, it feels in some ways like he is playing, he's playing a lower key strategic game right now, but like, to use a racing analogy, it feels like he's drafting behind, Jeremy and let's see, who else? Ben, maybe?
Yeah, Ben and Tony and Sarah, like these, and even Adam a lot. I mean, Adam was getting a ton of screen time. I know that doesn't matter, but he's getting screen time because he's doing a bunch of stuff. And so you kind of stay out of that. Like you said, you can kind of draft behind that. Mm-hmm. And you just reminded me of another thing I don't want to say it's kind of a thing that always surprises me, because Tyson is so goofy and like silly. And why I remember why I enjoyed watching him in the past is he's much, much, much smarter than he puts on. Mm-hmm. He makes this really silly, like self-deprecating attitude that makes him seem kind of clownish.
Right.
But he is incredibly clever.
Yeah, he's got just this sort of laid-back demeanor but it's the sort of, still waters run deep sort of thing in reality, right?
Yep.
But so
like, to this point, like him being able to say, wait, guys, like, why are we letting Adam do this? Like, for him to step back and kind of see what was happening, and then have the charisma to deliver the reminder, and not seem like he was now the one controlling, because he was just reminding them that that's what Adam's doing, and this is what we were thinking of. So we should really be thinking about Nick or Adam, right? Everybody's like, yeah, right. Yeah. Which was incredibly smart and so.
Right. Well, and we talked last time about how Natalie and Rob both gave up potential additional advantages in that challenge because they were so sure that they would need to have that idol coming back into the game so that they didn't just get immediately voted out right away. But not only has Tyson managed to avoid that fate, but nobody's even talking about him right now. I mean, a couple of people mentioned his name, but like everybody's name was mentioned at some point.
Yeah.
You know,
So
the only people who mentioned his name are the people who are obviously in this sub minority of the available people, you know.
right.
So,
So
anyway, we talked a little bit about what went wrong for Adam, and I mean, he was already a target, so it's not really like scrambling too hard or being paranoid was the thing he did wrong, really, because, like, people were targeting him already. He was on the chopping block. But at the same time, there were other names too. And maybe if he hadn't been so, aggressive with his scrambling, maybe it would have been easier for that name to be someone else this
right.
time.
If he had kind of allowed for it to just fall to Nick,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to trying to whip up what he didn't realize was, again, the same thing, like that the Sarah thing, it was almost like too clever, like to try to pick this easy vote of a big target.
Mm-hmm.
And it just, I think that's ultimately, again, what Tyson noticed was like, well, this just doesn't hold water, guys. Like, and then once he got called on it, that's when it all went very wrong for him, because
It,
he did not, like you pointed out, he did not handle, the confrontations
mm-hmm.
and and all that stuff. Like he just didn't handle, once it started to shift to him being paranoid, like, and then again, he thinking he had this safety net, maybe he just spun out of control a little bit. That's where it all
Yeah.
kind of went wrong. So,
Yep. 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 All right. So, room for improvement. Anyone out there doing stuff wrong you think they need to do better?
um, I, I mean, I don't know. I think everybody did a really good job this time, except for Adam, and he paid the price for it.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah.
I like I said, even Parvati's thing, which kind of surprised me, like made sense when she
Mm-hmm.
explained.
Well, it's such an interesting.
Also,
Sorry, I started
no,
to talk because you were glitching out a
it's
little.
okay. Go ahead, keep going.
It's such an interesting, different context because even though in the normal game only one person is going to win, right? But that out there at Edge of Extinction, like in theory, one person is going to get a chance to get back in, and so in principle, you would think that the competitive drive has to stay in there, and yet it really does seem like the context is different over there. It's a layer removed. It blunts the corners and rough edges over there,
Right.
and so it's more like why is Parvati deciding to share that stuff with everybody else, not seen in the same way as Sarah giving up her reward for Nick?
Right. Yeah, it's a little more communal over there because they've already been voted out. It's almost like getting back in would be a bonus, but it's not a given. And it's part of why Sandra left it. It's because it's like I could take or leave getting back in.
Mm-hmm.
Like uh, I would like to, but I don't think it's very likely for me. So why put myself through this? And they all again think, that there's no reason to like hoard fire tokens at the expense of the others right now. Like there's not that much to be gained. Like she saw, the biggest gain is that you could get some advantage in the challenge, but there's no guarantee there.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of it is getting food and stuff like that, which,
You know
so what
what?
if you share that? Yeah.
You know what just occurred to me is I wonder if the remnants of Tyson's jar of peanut butter are still buried out there somewhere. Like, did he finish that jar?
I don't know. I haven't.
He
Well, he
made it
hasn't been
sound
voted
like he
off
was
yet,
just
but he
gonna do.
might talk about it in his post if he
Yeah,
uh, his interview afterwards.
because I think because it's not like it didn't seem like he got to have like conversations with anybody once he won that challenge. He could have like chosen someone to say, "Hey, if you go to this one spot, there's dig it up." But I mean, it's probably still out there. I can't imagine. No other option seems feasible. Anyway, unless he finished it, might have just been finished. but he made it sound like he was just going to do like a big spoonful every day or something. So anyway, my only other room for improvement is I think that we've got just some of those guys like Jeremy and Tony. I think need to pay more attention to Tyson than it seems like they are right now. They may feel like they're using Tyson as a shield, but it really feels the other way from our vantage point.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would give that advice too. Like, I think they need to be more careful of the people who are actually threatening that just don't appear that way right
Yeah.
now.
Mm-hmm. All right, so I think that does it for talking about Survivor this week. We're going to be back next week for more. So try to survive until then. And on the chance that you're watching us on Friday night the 10th, we're about to switch over and do an episode of Watching 100 Movies where we'll be talking about It's a Wonderful Life and On the Waterfront. So you can check that out too. And in the meantime, I guess I try to survive until then.